Hello and welcome to Commodity Champions. I'm Manisha Gupta, and the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is set to present the Union Budget on February 1st. The agriculture sector, which contributes almost 17% to India's GDP, is keeping a keen watch on budget reforms, and that could help boost productivity and exports and increase rural income. The budget allocations for the sector has grown at a compounded annual growth rate of 5.4% since FY20. For FY25, the outlay for Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Department was 1.32 lakh crore rupees. This was slightly more than the revised budget of 1.27 lakh crores for FY24. Will the budget have any game-changing reforms for this crucial sector? What are the other expectations of the sectors? Let's talk about cotton first. And joining us for this is Atul Ganatra. He's president at Cotton Association of India. Mr. Ganatra, hi, thank you so much for joining us. Well, cotton and textile are important pillars when it comes to agriculture as a space. And we've seen some problems in 2024. From this budget 2025, especially when it comes to cotton, whether it is about import duty, whether it is about the PLI scheme or the job employment, what is your sense? What are you anticipating from this budget?
Yeah. Good evening, Manisha ji. See, as you rightly said, we need from Cotton Association of India, we have three demands in upcoming budget from our cotton and textile. One is Indian cotton yield is around 400 kg per hectare against world average yield of 800 kg. To increase our cotton yield, we need sufficient fund in upcoming budget to bring new seed technology. The new seed technology is given to our farmer, then cost of growing cotton will reduced by 50%. And at the same time, our cotton production can increase to 500 lakh bales from 300 lakh bales. And our farmers' income also will be double, as our Prime Minister aim is to increase our farmers' income. This will help to increase our farmers' income also. Number two, our demand is on import of cotton. Due to this duty, our textile industry is not able to import cheap rate cotton available in the world market. We want our textile industry to go and compete, grow and compete with China and Bangladesh, then this import duty should be removed from immediate effect.
Okay.
This demand from Finance Ministry is standing from last 3 years. We are demanding for so far. There is no relief given in the duty. At least from Cotton Association of India, we said government want to protect farmer, no problem. We are also want farmers to be happy. So main season of cotton coming is from 1st October to 31st March. 90% arrivals will be over. So second half from 1st April to 30th September also, if this relief is given, it will have to the textile industry to grow, Manisha ji.
Sure.
And one more demand is there. If there is some bigger subsidies given to the farmer for drip irrigation, then Indian cotton yield will increase. Drip irrigation along with fertilization high density plant will double the yield. So this also is our demand to give subsidy on the drip irrigation. And last and final, Manisha ji, country like Brazil is getting yield of cotton 2,400 kg, whereas our yield is 400 kg. So our suggestion will be to the government to appoint one committee and send a committee to the Brazil to see how their farmers are getting 6 times yield than us. And we suggest in this committee that they should include CCI, CAI, Textile Ministry, some officer, Agriculture Minister officers. So if they go and if we go out only, we will come to know how their farmers are getting 6 times yield than us. So this is also one of the suggestion to appoint one committee, and they should be sent to Brazil or Australia to see why their farmers are getting 5 times, 6 times yield than us.
Oh, well,
Ji, Manish.
absolutely. Those numbers are baffling. While India
Yeah.
gets just about 400 kgs per hectare, Brazil gets 2,400 kgs per yield per hectare. So there clearly is something that the government perhaps should move in that sense. And yield, in any case, has been an issue across various commodities there. Mr. Ganatra, thank you so much for joining in and laying out your pointers on what you are looking for forward from the finance minister from this budget this time around. But moving from cotton, let's shift focus to wheat now. And 2024 has been volatile in sense of wheat. We've seen prices gain. The OMSS is something that we've been keeping an eye on. But within this sector as well, what really is on the wish list? Mr. Ajay Goyal, Chairman of Wheat Product Promotion Society, is with us now to explain exactly that. Mr. Goyal, thank you so much for joining in. It's an important staple crop. The yields are issue here as well. But what is it that comes to your mind should be across in this budget that would support the economy?
Yeah, so I think just like cotton, wheat also has an issue with yield, and we are just half of the world. The other countries, we hardly are able to get about 3,500 kgs per hectare. And the best part is that, wheat is grown, or most of the commodities globally are grown in the least populous regions of the country. Whereas in India, it's the inverse. Here, most of the wheat crop is grown in the highly populous regions of the country. So we are not going to be able to add more acreages. We have to concentrate on yield so that, the productivity goes up. The past few years, we have seen productivity actually, as a matter of fact, come down, and the growth rate has almost stagnated as far as wheat is concerned. And as far as the budget expectations are concerned, of course, higher allocation for agriculture. The problems with Indian agriculture are well known. It's all about fragmented land holdings and lower productivity, poor soil conditions, the vagaries of the weather. So besides that, there is a vibrant food processing industry that is there in the country, and that needs to be given encouragement. One of the problems is post-harvest, we don't have, storage, transportation, which is modern. We still continue with the age-old practices of bagging it in the mandis, storing it in bags. This is all cost inefficient. We hope the government will pay some attention to this and look at, silos and bulk storage and methodology so that wastage is reduced, costs come down, the farmer benefits, the consumer benefits. And as far as government taxes are concerned, most food, processed food, even, the first stage processed food, like wheat being converted to atta and various other products, when packed in 25 kg or below for a consumer, attract a 5% GST. And so these are all basic commodities and basic items. So we feel that this is unfair for people who are spending a lot of time, effort in, adding to the value chain of agriculture, bringing the products to the consumer directly. And this 5% is quite a burden for a business which is a 1-2% turnover sort of a business. And the entire burden of this goes on the consumer, and we are not able to grow well because of this tax. Also, I think the government should take a call as far as import and export is concerned. It should not be, a knee-jerk reaction all the time. A bit of import won't harm the economy, won't harm the farmer. It will benefit the consumer and benefit the processing industry at large. Because as wheat prices keep going up, it becomes unaffordable for most of the population, and then there is a shift to other cereals and things like that. Whereas globally, wheat is about 30 to 40% cheaper than Indian wheat. So we are hopeful that the government will take a little medium to, if not a long-term view on this as well.
All right. Mr. Goyal, while you've listed out everything that wheat as a sector would be looking at, but you also talked about the processing industry. Food processing is something that we've almost heard about in every budget. Are you looking at topping up of those schemes, or would you want something new introduced this time around?
So I guess some sort of continued support is required for the food processing sector. And this is the sector which can change the economics of agriculture. If more and more food is processed quickly and, we are able to preserve it, and add value, the entire agriculture dynamics would look different. So I think more and more parks, more and more, cold chain, more and more storage, distribution. If the government encourages that, definitely it'll, help agriculture productivity.
Mr. Goyal, thank you so much for joining us and putting it in very comprehensive pointers in sense of what the wheat and the wheat product industry really is looking forward to from this budget. Well, we've talked to you about on what cotton and textile and wheat and products are looking for from the budget. But with that, it's time for a short break. But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll talk about expectations of the dry fruit and the edible oil sectors on the other side. Welcome back, and joining us now is Mr. D.N. Pathak. He's ED at the Soybean Processor Association of India. Mr. Pathak, thank you for joining in. And for a sector which is import dependent to the tune of 55 to 60%, I'm assuming we'll have a lot to ask from the finance minister this time.
Well, we have very little to ask. In fact, the sector is reeling under great stress, and we find that we are really under threat. For the first time in the last 15 years, the soybean prices have been ruling below the MSP and quite substantially, about 700 rupees, 600 to 700 rupees, which is a matter of great concern because the farmer, if he doesn't get the proper price, then the whole economics goes away, and we are afraid that he may not be interested in sowing soybean next year. And this is a crop which we do need because there is a huge demand of protein, which is being met by soybean meal. So our first and foremost, what we want is that this thing should be sorted out immediately, that the farmer gets the proper price and the industry can run. There are various issues. One of them is the DDGS use in soybean meal. A bigger issue is the export is not happening because we are outpriced, basically because of the price and a lot of logistics problems. We have the logistic cost in India is very high. Then we are exporting taxes and duties. The road tax rate is just 2%, while the actual outgo on remission on taxes and duties is about 8 to 9%. And we have given the data on that. But then, of course, the government has its own priorities and the money allocation and all. How this can be sorted out long term, of course, the productivity increase is the only way to do this, which is not happening now because we are only producing 1,000 kilos per hectare, while the Brazil or Argentina produce 3 tons. So competing with them is obviously is going to be impossible unless we increase our productivity by at least by double. So first, I would say that the allocation for the Oilseed Development Fund, which is at 2,000 crores a year, should be increased to 5,000 crores a year for the next 5-6 years, because that will make a huge dent. And we should look at the duties properly and align them with the MSP at least. And whatever money is received from the duty portion can be plowed back into oilseed productivity enhancement. So that's one thing. And export incentive certainly should be increased, and logistic cost. The railway freight is too high. I mean, we pay a huge amount of freight sometimes from the factory to the port,
right?
And other charges which are very high. So that's another thing. Another thing which is very important and is not being done as yet is the food use of soybean. It is basically a protein crop, not an oil crop. And soybean protein is the best, most economical protein. We use only 10% right now for food. If this can be increased to 30%, the whole lot of problems will be solved of the farmers, of the industry, of everybody, because then we will do value addition. The farmer will get the right price. The industry will be able to run. We will not be dependent on exports then. We can use all the soybean in our own country. So like Roj Khao Ande, Sunday, Monday, something like that is required to be done like what the government did for millets. So why not declare the 2026 as year of the soybean and then give some massive outlay for creating awareness, then upgrading the industry to make value-added items and food items. That's something which will really help the industry. So from our side, we don't have too many demands, but I think this one is quite a big one.
It is. And I remember the last conversation that we had, Mr. Pathak, you talked about the derivative market being opened as well with the kind of volatile moves. That is something that's missing. Would you put that request forth as well?
Where we are on derivatives, we are of the view that the edible oil, which we import more than 60%, should certainly be, futures should be opened because risk management is certainly required there. For soybean, we are still of the view that we don't require it in soybean because that's just about 2% of the, and there's no market depth. So we are consistently saying that open it for soybean, all our edible oils, and keep it closed for soybeans.
Point taken. So you are holding your stand that the soybean derivatives should not be open, but for the other edible oils, it should be open. So, well, that consistency is something that we've been looking for. But thank you so much for joining in, Mr. Pathak, and putting out that list on what the industry really needs right now, and hoping that the finance minister would have accounted for some of that. Well, moving on from edible oil, and let's discuss the dry fruit as a sector as well, because this is one growing area. India is looking at stronger consumption, not just as a dry fruit, but dry fruit as processed, value-added food as well. Bhanushali is Managing Director, Ashapura Agrocomm, and he joins us now with his sense on what the sector really is looking forward to in sense of a demand or request from the budget. Sameer, hi, good to have you. Let's start with the import part first. And we understand that there's a huge amount of tariffs and import duties in many of these dry fruits. Is that something you think the finance minister would look at?
Yeah, hi, Manisha. Yes, Manisha, dry fruits has always been a very niche segment, a rich man's diet, so it's always, perceived that it's okay if the dry fruits are expensive. But I think post-COVID, things have changed. People have become more health conscious and people are wanting to consume more and more healthy food, and dry fruit is right at the top of the healthy food list. The consumption has been growing at an average rate of 15 to 20% each year. And today, India is the largest importer of most of the dry fruits globally. Yes, when you look at the tariff structure, some of the products like walnuts are heavily tariffed, upward of 100% duties. And I think that's a pretty high duty structure to have. It makes the product very expensive for the end consumer to consume. Hence, it's been the long-standing demand of the industry to rationalize this and bring it much lower so that people can buy walnuts at a much affordable price. We understand the rationale behind this was mainly to protect the Indian farmers who grow walnuts. But if you look at the landscape in the last 15 years, we've from being a net exporter of walnuts, we are now a net importer of walnuts, and 80% of India's walnut needs now come as imported walnuts. So, that's one big request that the industry has with the finance ministry, that if they can look into walnut duty reduction. Along with that, there are other products as well which have high tariffs, and we would really want that to be rationalized to be able to provide, affordable dry fruits to the consumers.
Sure. Sameer, apart from that, when it comes to infrastructure within India and also production within India, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, right, I think walnuts, raisins, and cashews, these three dry fruits have always been produced in India. And if you look at, if you look at the landscape, cashew, we were the net exporters of cashew for the longest time. Today, again, we are importing almost 80% of our cashew needs. So I think the government really needs to look into this sector, which is a high value generating sector. 1,000 rupee or 800 rupee kg product versus a 40 rupee kg product that today a lot of our farmers are growing, and hence the farm economics never really add up, right? If the government can push these commodities, which can fetch a much higher value, the farmers will make a lot of money, and the government will save a lot of foreign exchange by not importing these products and procuring them locally. So it's a win-win for both. That's on the production side of the crops. But when you look at the processing, so because this is not like a big industry like a wheat or a soybean, it's smaller in terms of volume handling that we do. There are a lot of small and micro industries and food processing parks that we operate at. So the investments are small, but the revenue generation and the employment generation from this sector is massive, especially female employment. When you look at the cashew industry, it generates a lot of female employment in tier 2, tier 3, and even villages.
Okay.
So that's something that the government should really look into and come up with a production-linked incentive in this sector. So far, it's not been done because we've not been big enough. But I think now we are decent size, plus we are healthy.
And growing at a very strong number as well.
Absolutely. And to have a Swasth India, I think the government should look at healthier products.
Healthier products there. Well, absolutely. Whether it's about infrastructure, import duties and performance-linked incentives, that is something that the dry food sector also is looking forward to. Thank you so much, Sameer, for joining in and laying those points out for us. But with that, it's wrap on this special edition of Commodity Champions. Thank you for watching.